everyone, I'm Phoebe Richards. I'm one of the advisors at the WashU Career Center. This video is part of a series on networking, and for this one we're talking about sending that thank you note after you've had an informational interview. The thank you note is really important because partly it's just good to practice gratitude, to tell people we appreciate them when we do, but it's also a good way to really establish that connection and open the door to keep the connection alive over time. So you want to make sure to send that thank you note. I like to send it off within the next day. Getting it in a timely manner is a nice way to show that you're on top of things, that you really are grateful and invested. And when you write that note, it can be pretty simple and straightforward. Of course, you want to say thank you at some point in that email. And you also want to say specifically what you took away from that conversation. Maybe it was some information you didn't have before that you really appreciated learning about the ins and outs of the industry, or what a day in the life really looks like for this career. Maybe they gave you a piece of advice that you're intending to follow through on now. You have an action item that you're going to be doing because of the conversation that you had. Any of those things can be appropriate, but it is important to be specific about what was helpful to you about this conversation. You might also choose to ask a new follow-up question if something else has come up, or to let them know that this really has confirmed your interest in this industry or this career. But the bare bones, most important part is to say thank you and to talk about what specifically about the conversation was helpful. And then you want to send it again within probably 24 hours, maybe 48. I'm talking about sending an email thank you note, and I do think that that's appropriate and usually what you want to do. But you should also think about if it might be appropriate to send a handwritten thank you note. This can be really a way to really show that you have gone the extra mile, or that you really are especially appreciative of this person's time. Think about the person that you've had this conversation with and the industry that they come from. Maybe they are in a more traditional industry where a handwritten thank you note would, okay, we're going to start over. Hi everyone, I'm Phoebe Richards. I'm one of the advisors at the WashU Career Center. This video is part of a series on networking, and in this one we're talking about how to write and send a thank you note after you've had an informational interview with someone. These thank you notes are really important because it's a good way to show that you really appreciate the person taking the time to have this conversation with you. It also really cements the connection and keeps the door open for you to keep that connection alive over time. And it's also great to practice gratitude. So when you're writing this note, the most important pieces are, one, to say thank you, and two, to be specific about what you are grateful for. What from that conversation was especially helpful? Maybe it's a piece of advice that they gave about breaking into the industry, or some inside scoop that they gave you about what their day-to-day life looks like in their job. Maybe they gave you an action item of something to do and you're planning to follow through on that. That can be a great way to be specific about what you took away from that conversation. You might also ask a follow-up question if a new question has come to you since the conversation happened. Maybe you want to let them know that this conversation has really confirmed your interest in this career or this industry. But again, at the very minimum, you want to have a thank you and to be specific about what was helpful from the conversation. I usually send my thank you notes as emails, and I send them within 24 hours, maybe 48. So that's what I would recommend. But I think you should also think about if this is a case where a handwritten thank you note might be appropriate. Maybe this person is in an industry that is really traditional, where a handwritten note would go a long way, or maybe even be expected. Maybe think about the person that you had the conversation with. Maybe they seem like the kind of person who would really appreciate a handwritten thank you note, in which case it would be appropriate as well. Or maybe you decide that you want that to be a part of your personal brand, of the professional that you are, that you're the kind of person who handwrites a note that you send after you've had a conversation like this. So you get to feel out what seems right to you. If you do send a handwritten thank you note, then I usually send an email as well. You want them to have a little bit of a different message. Don't have them be carbon copies of the other. But I think it's nice to get that email thank you in quickly to give yourself a little bit more time to put that handwritten note in the mail or drop it off at their office. So that is how you want to approach writing those thank you notes. If you have any questions about it, or if you want someone to read over your thank you draft, you can always send those to me at plr1@woostel.edu. And you can also always schedule appointments with me or any of the other advisors at the Career Center by going to our website. Thanks so much for watching these videos. Hope you are doing well. Take care.